Good afternoon, everybody. This is Eric Holloway with the National Weather Service with Alaska statewide weather for August 27th, 2020. Have a couple options for you. 1-800 number to get you into a menu system to help you further refine your search. Also weather.gov/Alaska. Take off Alaska and put in Fairbanks, Anchorage, or Juneau. And again, that's designed to help you further refine your search. Lastly, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to email us there at the email at the bottom of the page. For hazardous weather, we continue to not have any hazards in the watch, warning, or advisory category. We do have some marine gales, small craft advisories out for a lot of the coastal areas surrounding the Gulf Coast and down through the Alaska Peninsula and into the Aleutians. So please check that if you're going out into the marine world. But otherwise, again, no watch, warning, or advisories out currently. Please check weather.gov/Alaska before you venture outside. I wanted to show the precipitation estimate from yesterday. This ends at 4 a.m. this morning, essentially August 26 precipitation amounts. And you can see the eastern Kenai Peninsula was hit with 1/2 to 1 inch amounts over a large area, also into Prince William Sound. Also, there was another area in the eastern interior with around 1 inch or less there. And again, up around just south of Bettles. And also some pretty good rain amounts down the Alaska Peninsula and as well as through the southeast. For the forecast, August 27th, so ending 4 a.m. tomorrow. Looking at 1/2 inch over a wide area to 1 inch amounts across the southeast with a low pressure system there. Occluded front approaching the panhandle. We'll see that here in a minute, but otherwise pretty good precipitation moving into the northern Gulf as well. Prince William Sound, eastern Kenai Peninsula. Also another spot over there in the western interior, southwest Alaska across into Seward Peninsula, with some around 1/2 inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch estimation forecast right there. I showed this yesterday. It was not updated since August 20th, so they did update it August 25th, and you notice that there was some area added around Seward Peninsula and Kotzebue Sound in that region, and again continuing some drier conditions on the Kenai Peninsula into Prince William Sound region and lower Cook Inlet. Otherwise, I don't know if you can see this, but Kodiak is a D1 right now. The lighter yellow is a D0, but Kodiak has received about 1/2 the normal precipitation since the beginning of July, so pretty dry on Kodiak Island. Taking a look at the satellite image for today, you can see all the cloudiness associated with a low pressure system occluded front moving towards the panhandle, spreading out some pretty good rainfall. I did see some moderate rain in some areas there. Also with a weak easterly wave trough system moving through the Seward Peninsula. I also noticed some pretty good rainfall amounts out there, and that did show up in our precipitation forecast. And the strongest system on the map is the one moving through Shemya, occluded front out there. Heavy to moderate rainfall through the central and western Aleutians associated with that system. Otherwise, some thunderstorms popping up in the interior as well. What does this all look like on the surface map? You can see the 990 millibar low there with a occluded front, heavy rainfall associated with that system that spreads into the central Bering, light rainfall out further ahead of that, but otherwise thermal low in the western interior with a trough bringing some pretty good rainfall through the Seward Peninsula. Some isolated thunderstorms in the interior, and 1,000 millibar low in the southern Gulf region, and included front approaching the Panhandle. Some moderate rainfall in the southern end of the Panhandle. For tonight's weather, that 987 millibar low now, occluded front stretching into the central Aleutians, heavy rainfall and moderate rainfall as well associated with that system. Otherwise, a weakening, some lingering showers across the southwest with that thermal low across the southwest with the thermal trough stretching out from that system into the Canadian Yukon territory. Fog will show up in the valleys once again and along the Arctic coast and down through the Alaska Peninsula. 992 millibar low now with a weakening occluded front. Still some pretty good rainfall in the Panhandle with the trough out ahead of that system, spreading rain showers in Canada. And lastly for Friday, 985 millibar low now continues to intensify with a occluded front, heavy rainfall now into the southern end of the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Rainfall also spreading out through much of the Bering. And as we expect, some afternoon thunderstorms once again through the interior. Thermal low showing up with a trough into British Columbia. Weakening low near the Panhandle, 1,001 millibars there. And for Saturday's weather, that occluded front once again stretches out into the northern Gulf. Moderate to heavy rain showing up in the last northern part of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, and portions of the northern Gulf. Otherwise, thermal trough, thunder shower or two spread out across the western interior. For low temperatures Friday morning, 30s along the north slope, 37 at Kaktovik, 35 in Utqiagvik, Point Hope 46, Arctic Village 39, Fort Yukon 43, Eagle 39, Fairbanks 46, Tanana 43, Galena 46 as well, Bettles 45, 40s down through the southwest with 44 in King Salmon, 45 in Dillingham, and mid 40s or 40s through the rest of the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians, with 46 in Cold Bay, 49 in Dutch Harbor, 48 in Shimia, 44 in Savunga, 45 in Kodiak, Cordova area 53, Seward 41, 47 in Yakutat, 50 in Haines, Juneau 49, Sitka 52, Ketchikan 52 as well. Let's see, high temperatures Friday afternoon, popping into the 40s along the north slope. Kaktovik 43, Deadhorse 42, 39 at Utqiagvik, 52.0, 55 in Arctic Village, 50 in Anaktuvik Pass, Fort Yukon 62, and Bettle 64, Eagle 62, and Fairbanks 63, Tanana 64, Galena 63, McGrath 65, Aniak 58, 60 at Bethel, otherwise 60s down through Bristol Bay with King Salmon 63, 52 in Dillingham, 50s down through the rest of the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians with Shimia 51, Cold Bay at 57, Dutch Harbor 56, St. Paul 56, Savunga 48, Kodiak 63, Anchorage 63, Seward 64, Yakutat 58, 59 in Haines, 57 in Juneau, 58 Sitka, and 59 in Ketchikan. For low temperatures Saturday morning, dropping back down into the 30s across the north slope and into the Brooks Range with 36 in Kaktovik, 35 in Deadhorse, 34 in Utqiagvik, 44 in Point Hope, Arctic Village 37, 37 in Anaktuvik Pass, and 42 in Fort Yukon, 38 Eagle, 43 in McGrath, 43 in Ambler as well, 49 in Nome, 44 in Fairbanks, 42 in Northway, 37 in Denali Park, and 42 in Big Delta, 44 in Fairbanks, 44 in McGrath, 40s down through the southwest with Aniak 46, 47 in Bethel, 45 in King Salmon, 47 in Dillingham, and 50s down through the rest of the Alaska Peninsula with 50 in Cold Bay, 51 in Dutch Harbor, 40s down through the Aleutians. With shimmy of 48, St. Paul 50, Savunga 45, Anchorage 47, 46 in Seward, 47 in Yakutat, 49 in Haines, 47 in Juneau, Sitka 50, and 50 in Ketchikan. For high temperatures Saturday afternoon, popping into the 40s along the North Slope, 41 in Kaktovik, 41 in Dead Horse, 38 in Utqiagvik, 50 in Point Hope, 51 in Arctic Village and AKwx Pass, 47 for Yukon, 59, 62 in Eagle, 61 in Bethel, 60s down through the rest of the Yukon River Valley and into the Kuskokwim River Valley with 67 McGrath, 59 in Bethel, 50s down through the Aleutians, and 65 in Anchorage, and 60s through much of the Panhandle, 59 in the state capital, and 59 in Ketchikan.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Let's take a look at the flying weather for Friday morning. We'll continue with some IFR conditions along the North Slope with marine stratus, low clouds, visibility around the high pressure in the Arctic Ocean. Again, bringing some IFR conditions up that way. Otherwise, a weakening low near the YK Delta will bring some IFR conditions in the Eastern Bering. Also, there will be a low and a occluder front moving through the Aleutians. That's what the IFR conditions is associated with down there. And lastly, across the Panhandle, some marginal conditions with another low weakening near the Panhandle. For Friday afternoon, some improving conditions along the Arctic coast and marginal conditions up that way. Also improving conditions down through the YK Delta and Eastern Bering with areas of IFR. Otherwise, IFR conditions again with that occluder front in the Aleutians, bringing IFR conditions down that way, and improving conditions in the Panhandle as well with some marginal conditions that way. And across the interior, just look for afternoon thunderstorms, but otherwise pretty good flying weather. Saturday morning, again, onshore flow and marine stratus along the Arctic coast brings IFR conditions up that way. Some pretty nice weather, flying weather, especially down through the southwest. Just some marginal conditions off the coast there. Otherwise, some IFR conditions through the Aleutians and portions of the Alaska Peninsula. And again, lastly, for the Panhandle, some marginal conditions, IFR conditions along the coastal mountains, but otherwise pretty good flying conditions showing up along most of the mainland. For Saturday afternoon, marginal conditions improving along the North Slope. Otherwise, marginal conditions throughout much of the Bering, some areas of IFR conditions along the Aleutians, and marginal conditions in the Panhandle and North Gulf coast, with again a weakening low pressure system there and an occluder front showing up in the Gulf. For past conditions, Friday, marginal conditions on the north entrance of AKwx Pass, otherwise marginal, improving the VFR. Much the same for Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR early, some marginal conditions in the afternoon with some areas of afternoon thunderstorms. Rainy, much the same, VFR early, marginal by the afternoon. And the same for windy, but no thunderstorm activity expected there. And Isabel, good flying, VFR conditions. Mentasta, VFR. Tanita, VFR. Portage, even VFR. Chilkoot and White, marginal down in the Panhandle. For freezing levels across the mainland, anywhere between 8 and 6,000 feet across much of the mainland. 6,000 feet over the southern end of the Panhandle. Otherwise, through the southern Bering, 8,000 foot freezing level, and across the portions of Aleutian, 10,000 feet freezing level there. Otherwise, you have to go off the coast of the Arctic coast there to find the surface. Also, the surface freezing level exists over the St. Elias Mountains. For icing Friday, some areas of icing associated with that low in the Gulf, isolated moderate with considerable moderate with good moisture and temperatures below -5 in that region of the Panhandle. And again, 9,000 and above across some areas of the southwest and in the Bering. For jet stream Friday, weak low pressure over the mainland, some light variable winds over the mainland, otherwise low near the Panhandle. 120 knot jet just south of the peninsula, otherwise 120 knots well south of the Aleutians out there around the low pressure system out there. 9,000 foot winds on Friday, looking for areas of low pressure over a thermal driven low in the mainland, light variable across the mainland, otherwise around the low pressure system near the Panhandle. 50 knots coming across the Panhandle with winds generally from the southwest. And lastly, a low pressure system on the Aleutians, bringing counterclockwise flow around that system. For 3,000 foot winds Friday, light and variable over the mainland, low pressure system near the Panhandle, 60 knot winds coming on shore over the Panhandle from the west or southwest, and a low pressure system in the Aleutians, 45 to 55 across much of the Aleutians. And turbulence for Friday below 3,000 foot over the Panhandle and portions of the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula.
Hi there, Starshines. Your friendly star nerd Trace here with some early morning stargazing for you. Head outside before sunrise and look to the southeast because you're going to welcome Orion back to our skies. In the early summer, Orion is hidden by the sun, but as fall approaches, he returns. Since he's back, let's equip him with a new mall, Venus the Morning Star. If you look a bit to the left of Orion, you'll see a bright spot. That is Venus. Venus is the next closest planet to our sun. It's about the same size as Earth, but has a terribly toxic temperament. The Soviet Union landed a probe on it in December of 1970, but it only lasted 20 minutes. Yikes-a-roo. Anyway, we all know that Orion can't really grab Venus, but our neighbor planet will chase Orion across the sky all morning. So enjoy the view while you keep looking up.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and we have a special guest in the studio today. We welcome Amanda Terborg of the Aviation Weather Center. Thanks for joining us, Amanda.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Amanda's flown in all the way from Kansas City, and for those of you that don't know, the Aviation Weather Center serves the lower 48 for aviators, just as the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit here in Anchorage serves all of Alaska. So I kind of wonder, what's the Aviation Weather Center in Kansas City doing to help out Alaska, Amanda?
Yeah, you know, we do a lot of collaboration work with our sister station up here. Lately, we've been doing a lot of work, especially in the satellite meteorology.
Okay.
In particular, we have been looking at ways to better identify icing conditions in clouds, which is a big deal up here because, as I'm coming to find out, even though I'm not from here, you guys have a lot of pilots here.
You have a lot of pilots. In fact, when you say you can't get there from here, that's how you get there.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so with icing potential then, what's Kansas City working on?
Well, we are working on something that will help us, again, identify the icing in the clouds. You don't want ice on your aircraft. No. Not only does it add a whole bunch of extra weight to your airframe when it attaches to the wings and the nose cone, but it can also mess with your aerodynamics.
Right.
And in the most serious conditions, that can mess with it enough that you can actually crash.
It changes the shape of the wing, and that makes it sometimes impossible to fly, right?
It does, yeah. So we want to figure out a way to better forecast for that.
Makes sense.
Now this particular image is over Alaska. The colors here are a little goofy. It doesn't look like your run-of-the-mill satellite image.
Okay.
But the red is where you have liquid clouds and the blue is ice. But again, it really doesn't tell you a lot where you have icing conditions in that cloud. Because in those clouds there's little droplets and they're cold and they're actually below freezing, but they're still liquid. And that makes them sticky.
Okay.
So when an aircraft flies through there, those droplets are sticking to the aircraft and it can happen amazingly fast.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to find. And there is a product called the Aircraft Flight Icing Threat that does this. And it's basically looking at the temperature of the cloud, and it's also looking at the size of the droplets to identify a probability and intensity of those icing conditions.
Okay.
And if you flip to the next image, this is a case from Juneau, Alaska, where this probably wouldn't have been the best day to fly around Juneau.
Okay.
Now there was an area of moisture that pushed south from the southwest up along the coast that pushed in a stratus layer. And in the stratus layer, there was a lot of those super cooled liquid drops, or a lot of stickiness.
Okay.
And so the flight icing threat was able to, in the pinks and the reds there, was able to identify where that icing was. Now this is really cool. It's really cool to be able to identify that. There is, of course, caveats to every product. Much as we wish it would happen, sun doesn't shine all the time, unless, I guess, if you live in northern Alaska during the summertime.
Right.
But we need that sun to be able to bounce off those clouds and to be able to see where those super cool drops are.
Okay, so it's a daytime only tool.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, of course, we're in the era of advanced satellite technology, and there is a satellite that can actually use moonlight to see clouds.
Yes.
And so sometime in the future, we hope to be able to do that.
Okay.
Another thing that is a bit of a challenge is multiple layers of clouds. You can only see so far through a thick cloud.
Okay.
And if it's thick enough, sometimes you can't see a layer of icing that's below there.
Right.
But even besides those caveats, this product has a lot of potential to help out Alaskan aviators here.
Well, it sounds like a really big deal, and something that forecasters at the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit could use probably on a daily basis, and especially in the middle of a really big storm.
Yeah, I would think so.
Do you have a really good success story in the lower 48 using this tool?
It's a fairly new product, and so we're still evaluating it. But yeah, we've had a lot of cases where we have seen that it does tend to capture those icing conditions.
Okay, very good. Well, Amanda, thanks so much for sharing some of the very interesting satellite imagery and the tools that you're using there at the Aviation Weather Center in Kansas City with us here in Alaska. People can probably find some of this information online, right?
Yeah, here is a website here. It's a page from NASA Langley, and they have this imagery as well as a bunch of other satellite imagery that you can take a look at.
Okay, great. And I'm sure our friends at the Alaska Aviation Weather Center and the unit will be using that in the coming months there with your training and your help there to learn more about that tool to help Alaska aviators any day of the year. That's wonderful stuff. So thanks again for joining us, Amanda, and we welcome you to view any of our Alaska weather facts on YouTube anytime at the address below, and we'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the sea ice analysis for today, lower concentrations of ice is definitely seeping into the pack ice there. Marginal ice has been noted. Also, a further retreat to the north of the extent of the ice. This may be ending as northeasterly winds develop and helping to drive ice pack a little bit farther south. Marine's forecast for southeast, inside waters winds generally from the south at 15 to 35, seas as high as 7 feet. Look for gale warnings out. And then for the outside waters, winds generally from a variable direction, 20 to 35, seas as high as 17 feet. We do have gale warnings out for tonight for that area. For Saturday, southeast forecast, winds generally from a variable direction in the inside waters, generally from the southerly direction, 10 to 15, seas as high as 2 feet. Much improvement for Saturday. And then outside waters, winds generally from the south, 25, seas as high as 8 feet. For south central, the Gulf region, winds generally from the west at 20, seas as high as 7 feet. Prince William Sound, winds generally from the northwest at 15, seas as high as 2 feet. Cook Inlet region, winds generally from the west at 10 to 15, seas as high as 4 feet. And for south central on Saturday, Gulf region, winds generally from a southerly direction, 30 to 40 with seas as high as 8 feet. Look for small craft advisories through tonight in that area. And then Prince William Sound, winds generally from the east at 25, seas as high as 4 feet. And for the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from the east at 15 to 40, seas as high as 10 feet. Look for gales for Saturday. Friday, marine forecast, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. Around Kodiak Island, winds generally from the west at 10 to 15, 10 to 20, I should say. Seas as high as 6 feet. South side of the peninsula, winds from the east at 30, seas as high as 6 feet. And the north side of the peninsula, winds variable, 10 to 20, seas as high as 3 feet. For Saturday, worsening conditions for sure. Winds around Kodiak Island variable, 30 to 35, seas as high as 11 feet. Look for gales on Saturday. And south side of the peninsula, winds generally from the southerly direction, 25, seas as high as 10 feet. Look for small craft on Saturday. And for the north side, winds variable, 30 to 35, seas as high feet, 8 feet. And again, look for gales on Saturday. Friday's marine forecast solution chain, winds variable in direction up to 35 knots with seas as high as 12 feet just north of Nikolsky and around Nikolsky, with seas as high as 12 feet across much of the eastern Aleutians. And for Saturday, winds generally from a easterly direction, 25 to 30, seas as high as 14 feet. Look for small craft advisories there. And again, they do have small craft through Friday for much of this region and gales on Friday. Marine forecast for West Coast, winds run from the north at 10 to 15, around 25 from the east around the Pribs, seas as high as 6 feet there. And for Saturday, winds generally from a easterly direction, 15 to 30, with seas as high as 12 feet near St. Matthew Island. Friday's marine forecast, Arctic coast, winds generally from the east at 25, seas as high as 6 feet, and through the northwest coast, winds generally from the east at 25, seas as high as 7 feet, down through the Bering Strait, winds from a variable direction up to 15, seas as high as 5 feet, and for Arctic coast on Saturday, winds generally from the northeast at 15 to 20, seas as high as 4 feet, northwest coast, winds generally from a northeasterly direction, 30, with seas as high as 11 feet. Look for gales or small craft advisories there. And down through the Bering Strait, winds from the north at 20 to 25, seas as high as 6 feet. For tonight's weather, 987 millibar low in the Aleutians, moderate to heavy rain associated with that system. Fog again shows up in the interior, in the low valleys there. Thermal trough through the interior, and a 992 millibar low, and a weakening included from bringing lingering rain showers, moderate to heavy rain in the Panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.